from the trees. Kings once said, for you and me, oh, sorry,
Whatever he shot.
I'll fight you anyway. Oh, stay with me.
Jackie,
Days for me. Down the tree.
Bring your mother.
Yes, okay.
There, pal, that's great.
All he wants to see your eyes, that's all.
Around Newfoundland, in the small community, there's this whole thing, you're disguised, and people are trying to guess who you are, because they know you so intimately.
You'll have to listen. Up, to your left.
What's up? We got a party!
But in town, in St. John's, you come to somebody's door and they don't know who you are. You could be a bunch of bloodthirsty murderers, and perhaps in New York City you would be. They have no reason to let you in. They have every reason to keep you out, right? You might come in and steal a silver. They don't know who you are, but they do. Most people do. Why? Because it's Christmas.
It was almost like a rite of passage. It was more than just clowning around, dancing with straw hats. It was more than doggerel rhymes. I have always had this sense of the importance, of the mumming tradition. I really have, and it's deep down and it's buried in everybody.
When we started mumming, we didn't know what it was really. It was just a matter of something you done at Christmas. That's the way we brought up, like sort of thing, It was in later years now that I really found out that there was people that didn't approve of it, Yeah, and that it was as well that it was pagan. But at this stage I'm talking about, all we were worried about was to get a few pound and get a bit of crack.
From the old world to the new, from Europe to Newfoundland to Philadelphia, from the Middle Ages to the present. Welcome to the world of mummers.
He was my great-great-great-uncle, Jonas Sullivan. He was 15 years old at Gettysburg, away from home for the first time, from his family here in Philadelphia, away from Ireland for the first time. And there he was doing the Mummer Strut at Gettysburg, and he wrote that in his journal. He did the Mummer Strut on New Year's Day, him and other Philadelphians. That's as mummery as you can get, kid. You're under fire and you're out there dancing it. And we always felt sorry for him until I found out that a half barrel of beer rolled down some steps and broke his neck. He was pushing it up steps. That's a true story. I don't know whether we want to say that or not. But he was pushing the half barrel of beer upstairs to the second floor, and it rolled back and broke his neck and killed him. Isn't that an awful thing?
Everyone's got their theories. I've had the romantic ideas of like the horse being stood on the beach and invaders come in and they see this thing prancing around and they go, oh, I'm not going there, it's a mad dragon, a mad beast or something like that. Or then another time I can look at it and think, well, fertility. I just love the fact that nobody knows.
This is not the modern Christmas you see at the shopping mall. This is the old one, with sex, death, and pagan magic. The Christmas behind the Christmas we know. When you step off the ferry, Southeast Bight reminds you of the way Newfoundland outports used to be. Before paved roads, before Nintendo, before the cod fishery collapsed. People here still follow the old ways, especially at Christmas, after dark.
Talk in your brain.
This is not Halloween, it's Christmas. It's not children trick-or-treating. It's adults.
You don't know who I am? Now you know. Something about having the mask on, you feel you could go in and carry on and act the fool that you wouldn't normally do.
Over the 12 nights of Christmas, the Mummers will get around to visiting all 30 families in this community.
There's a good many goes. There's a good many don't go, because if everybody goes, there's no place for anybody to go. Somebody's got to stay home.
She went to the mirror to let down her hair, and when she had done so, her scalp was all bare. You got too much. Says she, don't be frightened to see my bald head. I'll put on a cap when I get into bed. She hung her false hair on the wall on a peg, and then she proceeded to send you take off her leg. And her shivering husband got quite a surprise when she asked him to come and take out her glass eye. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. Oh yes, he's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man.
People often say that mummering went out in some parts of Newfoundland when modern shag carpets came in. But here, nobody locks the door, nobody locks up the liquor, and nobody cares about a bit of mud on the carpet.
Well, I think the main reason it's fading out in like bigger places is crime. When you go around here, everybody knows who you are and what you're going for. But I mean, like if you were to take a place like, say, where there's some place where there's a road through, you went up and knocked on somebody's door, they think you're a mummer and you might be just there to rob the place. I think that's the main reason that it's dying out in, you know, larger communities. You pick up a few along the way, you drop a few along the way. All depends on the conditions. Conditions of the weather and how much some fellas have had.
This is more than just having a drink and a good time with neighbours. It's thought to be a fragment of an ancient celebration that goes back well beyond the birth of Christ. It came to Newfoundland with the first settlers from England and Ireland centuries ago. This is as close as you can get to North America and still be in Europe. But you won't find the source of mummering in a beehive hut or on some archaeological dig. This is a living tradition, locked in the people. Tantalizing glimpses of ritual behaviour surface on the day after Christmas.
Huitintse le maid. Shanna Chaucer agus léin agus héimiis tréine machchas títhe. Agus bheith buach légin is semin buscadún agus éimiis do hí go tíd agus réimiis do réin ceart. Híní dís capel aimmuid agus chuirtí dís Berlín bán an nuasaid agus erbal siad ón Marlín agus bheith beagmach I miad an chapel agus thugad dís isteach an tig Had godi sin srian agus fecha capel a goscailte bhéil. Agus chuidir sé go runnin ar bhí mu beag.
I remember the White Horse. They used to see 2 or 3 of them every Ransday, like, but we're not going to have one today anyway. 2 years ago, instead of the White Horse, we brought a donkey with us, and we had some crack with him inside the houses and into the pubs. Today, there's a white puck goat around the place, and if we can catch him, we'll bring him along. I think in this part of the country, the fact that the Gaelic language is still here, that tradition stayed as well, and I don't think we've made a serious effort at holding on to any tradition. It just so happened that it was of enormous fun and enjoyment that we just kept doing it. I think it's best to try and hold on to a tradition for the sake of holding on to it. It loses life, like, and it keeps changing.
Ferratinis, big old other, you know Ferratinis.
They don't call themselves mummers in this part of Ireland. They're wrenboys, after Europe's smallest bird. And not so long ago, they would have walked in carrying a bird in a holly bush. At one time, the tiny wren was hunted all over Ireland and throughout Europe on December 26th, St. Stephen's Day, the day of the wren.
Agus fiach Jolene beag was stig in Moscow. Jolene beag agus fediste rá. Jolene fuoris a hís a díntse. Fé chaw clothe agus caravat síidir. Hugus a chúise a lánún tíise. Is gur a 6 fear a bheisih ar 10 ríist chúd. Deridis an verse beagsan.
Out in the country, people disguise themselves and go house to house. But in Dingletown, on St. Stephen's Day, the wrenboys stage parades.
The sword that we have in the Wren, it was the landlord, when we got out in 1922 when the Irish Free State was formed. The landlords left and the land was taken. Now, the sword that we have in our own Wren, it was given by the landlord, Captain Demoline, to the Wren for to be used with the captain. So that's the sword that I still have.
There's a sword, there's a white horse, we've seen a billy goat, but why are these celebrations still named after a bird? There's no textbook answer, but we know that at one time, the wren had to be ritually killed at midwinter all over Europe. A generation ago, the tradition was common across Newfoundland too. Was it an ancient sacrifice to call back the sun and hasten spring?
St. Stephen was the first Christian martyr. And the story is that when the soldiers were chasing him to arrest him and eventually execute him, that he hid in a hedge, and that the soldiers couldn't find him, but a little wren came along and perched in the bush beside him somewhere and made some little noise that attracted the attention of the soldiers, and they went over and searched, and they found Stephen there hiding and arrested him, and of course he was executed eventually. But that's not so at all. That is an apocryphal story, so to speak, but it's all right, it fits in with things. There were many things, many customs, pagan customs, that the church cleverly or wisely, would say, Christianized them.
We enjoy it, and we feel that it's very much part of the community life, and that also it's a tradition that has kept the community together, because there was even a very rich tradition. I can remember, even if you met people from the town of Dingle, we'll say in Boston or New York or where they immigrated to, one of the questions they would always ask you, how is the RAN going now? You know, because that was the big memory many of them bought from Dingle, as the RAN tradition, and they felt very passionate about it always.
Dingle, Southern Ireland, the Wrenboys Parade is the social event of the year, pulling the community together. But in Northern Ireland, parades have come to mean sectarian violence, splitting communities apart. This border county used to be alive with mummers tramping from house to house at Christmas, enacting an ancient community drama. But in the 1970s, mummering had almost disappeared.
The mumming tradition had died out. It had died out really for the two reasons. One was clerical disapproval, and the other was because of the security situation here during the Troubles, that it certainly wasn't safe for groups of young men to be travelling around the countryside heavily disguised. You know, it certainly was far too dangerous.
Brian Gallagher played a big part in the revival when he started up a mummers troupe with his high school students. They performed the play on TV. It was a while ago now.
I restarted it maybe the early 70s. That's about 9 different years that I have given you an answer to that question. You know, when was it? The 60s? No, 40s, 70s? No, it must have been around the 80s. I think it was the year 2008. 18th century, round about the time of the plague, the Great Fire in London, the Irish potato famine, it was the Battle of Waterloo, round about that time there.
Yes, the mummers opened up this area, I can say for sure, because there was a lot of trouble when we started in 1889. Bombings and shootings and killings and murders. You went into the house that you wouldn't have been in if you weren't mumming.
Oh, because you're very welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
What mummers are you then?
We're from Ashlamad.
Oh, you're from Ashlamad. Ashlamad mummers is here, missus. Come on, hell on in here.
It was the spirit of Christmas, I think. They got to know you and they got to chat to you, and especially the Catholic house. They wanted you to stay and give them more of your crack, as they call it, you know.
There were two champions. There was Prince George and St. Patrick. And in the Catholic version of it, St. Patrick always won. But in the Protestant version, Prince George used to win. Now, I mean, the guy that was killed all was recovered, you see, but still, there was a little subtle, delicate sort of a hint that told you which side of the fence you were on, there. But nevertheless, it's regarded as generally as a cross-community thing. Both Protestants and Catholics like to see the mummers coming.
A new generation is discovering the mysteries of a ritual drama that harks back to the Middle Ages and beyond.
People don't understand it, and rightly so. It's not meant to be understood.
Here comes ABLC Bob and I'm the Mummer Carry Club. In behind the frame pan, now the jolly wee man.
In Hollywood splatter movies, when you're dead, you're dead. But in this ancient pagan drama, when you're dead, you get a doctor.
I'm sure this man was dead, you're going to take care of. What can you cure, doctor? I can cure the big plague, the weak plague, the plague within, the plague without, the pip, the palsy and the gout. Raise up, dead man, and fight again.
Right. Again. That's it. Raise up, dead man.
Raise up, dead man, and fight again.
Give him a lift, he's coming back from the dead. Right, come on!
It's all about fertility, and this thing is common. Believe it or not, it's common throughout Europe. The symbolism of life, death, rebirth, and the sequence of a play being performed in midwinter when the night and the earth is at its complete dead.
It's supposed to be an English custom, but I honestly think that it was an English custom brought over and it was grafted onto something that existed in Ireland already.
Mummers is not supposed to be seen. The face is not supposed to be seen. This covers the face. In later years I do have to make all the hats because nobody folder type was making them like. There's none of the younger people too eager seemingly to learn now, to make them. So that's why I say that in years to come it could be very difficult to have mummers. Between that and having no straw. But you'll always get the straw out of some places, those mummers. This is the skirt of it. That's the jacket. This is supposed to be a Fermanagh hat with the long streak at the back.
St. John's is the oldest city in North America. In the 1800s, walking down the street at Christmas time meant running a gauntlet of mummers. Civil unrest, sectarian violence, and bitter strife between fishermen and merchants increased the tension. In 1861, a man was killed, supposedly by masked mummers, and the custom was banned. Caught by police, a mummer faced 7 days in jail. In the bigger communities, the custom died out.
They still call this Fenley's Hill. 110
years after the ban, Chris Brookes came here to Port Kerwin determined to revive the Mummer's play.
So that's where you would have seen the sword.
But the trouble with oral tradition is, when it passes from living memory, it dies.
I remember it over there, but I think I saw him at somebody else's house. So he's probably
It was in this tiny outport he tracked down a group of old fishermen who still remembered the words of the play. Those fishermen have all passed on, but now he's back because a sword from the old play has turned up in a woodshed.
Look at that, see?
Wow.
See?
That's the one I remember.
found
Now, do you remember that?
It was coloured a dark red. I just always remember, see, because what struck me was, because A, it was curved, and B, that was, you know, that was blood. It's supposed to be for blood. And I remember I tried to get out of it. I would say, what was the fight like? Because there are two characters that have a battle. I said, what was it like? You know, where you going? And they would say, oh no, there's never anything, no fighting around here now. You know, no, we're good people down here, right? And I said, yeah, but what was it like?
He was trying to make it sound
No, we're good people down here. And I said, not that kind of a fight. I mean, the fight in the play, you know.
For the past 30 years, Chris has been performing the play they gave him every Christmas around St. John's.
Definitely gonna poke myself in the eye with this thing. It'll be like.
Well, you want? Because
Maybe we
nobody
should
can see
go
my
one
lips
more
move. Yeah.
Baby legs.
Hello, Green Hornet. It's Kato.
I got a phone call from the chief of police asking if did I know that it was illegal, and which I thought was amazing. I mean, this law's been on the books for 110 years, and here's this guy asking me, did I know it was illegal? And I said, yes. And he said, well, what were our intentions? And basically it turned out that he wasn't going to hassle us if we only went to the houses of people that we knew. So I said, oh, of course, we'll just go to friends and people that we know. And of course we went to strangers' houses, which we have done ever since. And it was, I mean, it's in the way it's the most fun, I think, in town, you know.
This looks like a party.
There are Christmas trees in the back room.
Let's do 7.
If it's early-ish in the evening, the first question is often, who hasn't eaten, you know. Has anybody not had supper? Okay, we want to hit somewhere where there's liable to be decent food first, so let's cruise circuit a road and around there, and if we can find a party happening there, they'll have good food. You're not going to get crab aspic in a longshoreman's house. This dead person has got to be made alive again. And hopefully up in the sky the sun is watching this. And the light and dark in the sky, which are doing the same thing, having a kind of a battle. And light's got to win. And we have spring.
I'm afraid it's bury this man we must. Bury him? Yes. With people all about a stag? Is there a doctor to be found to cure a dead man?
I'll see if I can get one on the line. Hello, is there a doctor? Hello?
Is there a doctor in the house?
Oh, there might be. There's a judge and a bunch of academics.
£5.
There's got to be a doctor in the house.
£5 for a doctor.
There's a doctor?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait,
is there?
In the other room.
Oh, doctor! Doctor! It's not like a piece of theatre that you see in the Arts and Culture Centre and pay your ticket price for. I think millennia ago, it actually meant that the sun was going to come back, and we were going to make it come back. I think these days it's about bringing light into a house. It's working. It's working. It gets rid of the stuffiness in a person, and it's like, I think maybe we all accumulate cobwebs, you know, and so we need like these exorcists to come in and get rid of all of that horrible, miserable, depressing dust bunnies of the spirit. It's like a vacuum cleaner exorcism. It's like a high colon enema of the soul. As long as we manage to do this thing, this ritual where somebody dies and is brought to life again, even if they don't notice that it's a ritual, It doesn't matter. The ritual was done in that house. It's done. We cleaned out your house.
And sometimes why?
Praise the Lord!
This scruffy creature may not look like much, but he's been around since Newfoundland began.
Anybody at all?
Yes.
Anybody at all?
What is twice the half?
Any question at all? All right. Anybody have? Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
What is twice the half of 3 5/8?
I'm sorry, sir. We will not discuss your penis size here. Any other questions?
I mean, I think it goes back to, dressing up in the skins of animals. I mean, it frightens kids. Well, it should, I think. Terrifies family pets. Should do that too, because it's an animal. The dog thinks it's an animal. The dog always barks at it. Everybody's dog does.
No, this is a fine horse.
This is a fine horse.
Every summer he plows Queen Victoria's garden. And every...
It's in the historical record that one of these things walked off a ship in 1583 when they first planted the British flag in St. John's Harbour. The ship sailed from southwest England. Pioneer broadcaster and ballad hunter Peter Kennedy has been filming mummers and their hobby horses for 50 years.
It is a monster. A lot of people wouldn't even realise it was meant to be a horse. And perhaps we've called it a hobby horse because a hobby horse was a child's plaything. And that was a sort of way of saying, well, this is not really as frightening as it looks. It's only a hobby horse,
This is probably as close as we can get to seeing what that first hobby horse to the new world looked like.
If I was a miner, Johnny, I wouldn't. I'd give up parliamental life and stick to golf and take a wife. I wouldn't. If I was a miner, Johnny. Oh, Joe, the boat is going over. Oh, Joe, you naughty man, she cried. Oh, Joe, I wish you'd been in Dover. La-dee-doo-da-la-da-da-da-dee-dle-dee-dle-dee.
I believe the devil's involved in it myself. I really do think that the devil's got something involved with it, because it does something to me when I'm in there, and I'm quite a normal person besides this. I've been in Chinese restaurants with it, Indian restaurants, China shops I've been into it. There's nothing that I can't, I will take this wherever, if I see a pretty woman, then I'll go after her. I'll go back into the band, I'll knock them all over the place, and knock them completely out of rhythm, and they'll look back, they're calling me all the names under the sun, and I'm walking up the road and I'm laughing. And I think to myself, I've done it again. It seems to have an effect on you when you're in there, and I'm hearing it, and it's telling me what to do. I know this might sound stupid, but it's telling me what to do.
The whole tradition of just celebrating the idea of the passing of the year and things coming to life again is terribly important. And to frighten the children is one of the ways in which you get them to realise the importance of these things.
Maybe this was a ritual to help the little green shoots grow. And just maybe the same ritual helps with human fertility. We're talking sex here.
We've had women come up to us in the past that haven't been able to have children, and they've heard about this thing and they've gone under it to be booted, and 9 months later they're pregnant. Now, whether it's the guy on the horse or whether it's the horse itself or not, or whether it's their own husband, we don't know. Some people call it a fertility drug, but
this is where the fertility bit comes in with the hobby horse. We've had 2 or 3 different girls
come to us from anywhere in the country
and tried to have children. Now, whether it might sound stupid, but they've come in underneath here and been booted, and They're pregnant.
Yeah, within a year they're pregnant.
And I'm pretty good at that one. I really am pretty good at that.
If you just put your arms right over your neck.
In her hard, mine, hard. In her hard. Oh, the governor! Oh!
By still doing that hobby horse, it still gives us that little bit of togetherness, do you know what I mean? It's ours, and we'll never let that die, not as long as I draw breath, or my kids, or any of our youngsters we've got going on. It's drummed into them. It was drummed into me when I was 14. I remember Kenny Gubb said to me, he said, "You'll never let it die, will he, boy?" And I said, "No, Ken, I promise you." And I made that promise and I'll stick to it. And the boys I've told now have promised me. So I feel, you know, if anything happens to me, I know it will keep going and I can die happy. And it sounds twee, if you like, but I mean it. I really mean it.
As much as being an American, I love being an American. Thank God I'm an American. But thank God I'm a mummer also. God, country, and the shooting stars, we say. That's it. God, country, and the shooting stars. That's what's
Take one ripe European tradition, throw it in the American melting pot, stir well for 200 years, mix in some Broadway, some Super Bowl, and all the glitz and sequins you can find, and this is what struts down Main Street, Philadelphia on New Year's Day, the Mummers Parade.
I'm 84 and I've been in it for 78 years. And I feel like a 90, ready to go again. I used to pray from Oregon Avenue to Columbia Avenue years ago. And what they do, they would say that when you get up there, the hot dog wagon will be up there. There was no hot dog wagon up there. They just try to see you get up there.
The movie pioneer Thomas Edison filmed this downtown Mummers Parade in 1901, but there have been Mummers Parades in the neighborhoods here for 2 centuries. Back when they signed the Declaration of Independence, this was the capital of the country, and everyone who stepped off the boat brought something of their own to the city's love affair with mummering. It's been getting more spectacular ever since. But it wasn't always a love affair, not in the early 19th century. Back then, the Quaker city fathers were not amused by what they saw as rowdiness. public drinking, cross-dressing, all the fun stuff. And so just like in Newfoundland and Ireland, mummers were banned. After the Civil War, they were back on the streets with a vengeance. But even today, you have to wear an ID badge and be a member of a licensed club, like Billy McIntyre's Shooting Stars.
My father used to mortgage the house every year to get the money to pay for the suits, the costumes for the men. He did that a couple times. My mother never complained because she was a mummer.
Today, there are 60 mummers clubs with their headquarters on 2nd Street, Mummers Row.
Philadelphia is a city of neighborhoods. You have your Greek section, your Polish section, your Italian section, but Mummers Row is your Irish section. We haven't moved. My great-great-grandparents got off the boat 2 blocks from here. I've moved 2 blocks. I live 1 block from where my grandmother was born. I have 166 first cousins through marriage. We all live here. But I bet on New Year's Day I'll have 50 cousins in that parade.
All the clubs want to be here on Mummers Row. This is where the action is. They spend all year making costumes, practicing dance routines, building towards Philadelphia's biggest day of the year.
No sex tonight, it's too close to New Year's.
That's right, yeah. We gotta think mummer, and that's what he is, mum.
That mum, Lena Burns. It's a way of life, that's all we can say, and it's such a part of your life. It's like the blood that runs through your veins. You can't live without it.
The Mummers Parade is actually one big competition. And some of the floats have become so big that they don't fit under the streetlights anymore. The Shooting Stars have to strut before the judges inside the City Convention Center.
4.5 minutes, 365 days a year, lots and lots of money, $100,000 maybe in some instances, to do 4.5 minute performance. Unless you're a mummer deep in your heart, it doesn't make sense. No return on investment whatsoever. There's no way to making money on it. It's a losing money, but the happiness it brings, the joy and the fun all year round.
Ladies and gentlemen, our first fancy brigade is Bill McIntyre's Shooting Stars.
With all this, dinosaurs, Trojans, pirates, cavemen, and Washington crossing the Delaware, the Shooting Stars only managed to place 5th in the competition. Imagine the 4 routines that could top this.
Shooting stars!
At the end of a long day, the parade turns into one big neighbourhood street bash as the mummers and marching bands wind their way back onto 2nd Street.
The Phillies might not win the World Series, the Eagles won't win the Super Bowl, the Flyers maybe not the Stanley Cup, but there'll always be a Mummer's Parade on 2nd Street. Always. Forever and ever and ever. For all time. They'll never take that away from us.
Forget red-nosed reindeer at the North Pole. Mummering can take place in a big city, in a village, or in an outport kitchen. Isn't this what Christmas is really about?
Might be able to count. Huh?